The next thing I wanted to talk about is Lauren put out a really cool video on Instagram. And I think you should talk about that and share that with people who might have missed it.
Well, yeah, I was hoping that we could turn it into a conversation.
Okay.
So we've gone through our marriage struggles in the last couple of weeks that we've shared with you. And so we're pretty much on the other side of that, so in reflection, I made a video on how to fight in a Christian marriage. So how do we need to handle ourselves as Christians when we have conflict in our marriages?
Yeah. Learning how to fight fair is huge, right? Because scorched earth means nobody wins.
And I think,
and the damage done to your marriage
unfortunately, so many people, they call themselves Christians. They live as Christians in many other aspects of their life, and when their marriage is going well, they probably live, they're a good Christian, but as soon as they're put on the defensive against their partner, people get really ugly. You hear stories about how people fight, and there's no God in that.
There's no grace, right?
Yeah.
Those really great Christians that, pray for grace and count on grace, give none.
Yeah. So I just put out a video on Instagram it had 4 things, and I've added another one to talk tonight, but things that helped get us through this past couple weeks, and that I think can help people whenever they're having their own kind of conflict in their marriage. So I think the first one, and we've talked about this before, and it's probably the most obvious and important one, is prayer. Praying for your partner throughout the conflict, and also praying with each other. Prayer is a very vulnerable act, especially when you're doing it out loud with someone else. And I think a lot of married people don't really pray together outside of maybe grace, at the table. But holding that person's hand who you are in a fight with, and coming together and asking God together to be with you throughout this period of conflict, and to kind of soften both your hearts and speak honestly, but speaking honestly to God, I think, in front of the other person and kind of with each other. I think that can shift the emotion a lot from that conflict, and kind of can deflate any anger that is there.
Using prayer as, and God as your mediator, right? When you're going there and you're being honest and you're being vulnerable, and you are praying like an open book to God, with holding your spouse's hand, that's another way of communicating with your spouse.
Yeah.
What you're struggling with, and they can see, what's going on. But if you don't trust your spouse enough to pray honestly, you got some big issues. You need to start praying, forcefully, honestly, and transparently with your spouse, because it's just another way to check on the health of everyone. You may have thought I have a great day, but if I'm sitting there talking about a struggle when I'm praying, grace, or before I go to bed, or any of that other stuff, like and the other thing is, don't be afraid to go get your significant other and say, can you pray with me on something?
Yeah.
And then when you're the significant other, don't just sit there and hold their hand. Offer it up. Reinforce that prayer. Like when they pray and they're like, hey, God, let me with this, let me with that, do that. The best prayers I've seen between couples is when they trade back and forth, right? And then, whoever closes it out, doesn't matter. But going out there and then, and reinforcing those prayers is such a good thing to do. It just, because the person who's in the crosshairs, who's under attack or, struggling, might not see all the things that are going on. And that's what the person who knows you best on this planet, which is your significant other, can kind of reinforce you along those ways.
And that's something that I personally need to work on being better about, is the praying out loud with you part. I need to offer that up more.
Sure.
And then also praying for your partner, kind of in privacy, just to God, asking God to bless that person. Especially when you're in a fight, your heart hardens a little bit, not hardens in the way of like you don't love them anymore, but you don't always kind of wish the best in that moment. And so I think asking for God to bless your partner and, and praying for them to get what you hope out of the argument or whatever's going on will also, again, then kind of shift your perspective back to how it's supposed to be in your marriage and remind you of the priorities and the love that is there and all of that. The next thing that I find to be helpful is to be intentional with how you act around your partner in this time of struggle. Again, as I said, if sometimes you don't always feel the most generous towards your partner when, they've done something that made you angry or they're mad at you or whatever the situation is. And it's tempting to kind of shut off the consideration. So for example, and I said this in the video, like most mornings, if I'm down early, I'll make Jason's coffee and have his mugwort, on the table and stuff like that. Just a gesture that says I'm starting the day by thinking of you and I love you, that kind of thing. And there's moments when we have a problem that I will be in the kitchen getting ready to go to the couch and be like, oh, I didn't make his coffee yet. And being tempted to just keep going to the couch and say, not today. And those
there were a couple of days last week.
And it's not always intentional that I don't do. I do miss it some days. Boss Lauren. So now he's going to read into it every time I don't do it. There's some days it just doesn't happen. But it's so much more important when you're having an issue and like the love is not freely flowing between two people, to do those gestures that are kind of the tangible reminders that the bigger picture is we are in this together. We love each other. We're on the same team. I still care for you. I still like you. I still love you. And they become even more important. So being more deliberate and more intentional with those things that might not feel natural in that moment, touching them more, making eye contact. I know I retreat when I'm upset. And so I avoid eye contact or, I don't talk as much. And just
She doesn't just avoid eye contact. She won't even face me.
I'm trying to sort things out and I need space. But so,
she won't even face me. I'll be like, man, I haven't seen the front side of Lauren today, so I know something's wrong.
So he comes around. Is something wrong? No, so just be more intentional, even when it doesn't come naturally to you. Do you have anything you want to add on that? Other than saying all of my short.
No. The be intentional or deliberate. Nobody. You guys have heard me say this before. Nobody just rolls over into happiness. No one just rolls over into a good marriage. It doesn't just happen. You have to work on it, and you have to be constantly nurturing that, even when you don't feel like it. That's when it's most important. Mm-hmm. When you're fighting, and it's that kiss on the cheek, or that hug, or just taking a moment just to hold their hand, or just stop being busy and try to get some physical reconnection. And sometimes it's just a good cry. Sometimes it's a really long hug. Sometimes it's whatever it is that works for you. Everyone's wired differently, but in those dark moments, you have to do those. Mm-hmm. Like, even if it isn't resolved yet, maintain that connection. Mm-hmm. All right. Because just retreating and saying, screw the other person, the only person who wins there is the enemy.
Yeah. And I think if you avoid all of those things, the issue might get resolved, but then you're left with all this baggage and separation from what kind of got added into the problem and in the lack of resolution. And so then on paper, the problem's gone, but you now feel very separate. So I think it's making sure that you don't allow that void to grow.
So this list that Lauren came up with, we're really good. We don't carry problems forward, meaning that we don't have like a bunch, like a whole, shopping cart of problems that we deal with them in the moment. I mean, we put our business second. There are days where we have extremely busy schedules and we'll cancel it all and we'll sit down and work on our problems as a family.
We're lucky to be able to do that.
But whatever was going to happen, obviously not everyone can do that all the time, but make your marriage a priority.
Mm-hmm.
Like, don't go 2 weeks
Yeah.
without addressing something. Address it that day. Don't go to bed angry.
Yes.
I mean, that is it's really, really important to do that. Because if you don't, next thing you know, you're going to start growing apart. Then you start sleeping in separate rooms, and then you have a roommate, not a wife or a husband.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah. The next one, and we've talked about kind of the roles in marriage in a previous episode, and kind of what is it Jason was talking about kind of as being the husband and struggles with being the leader of the family.
Mm-hmm.
But remembering your role in the marriage, this is part of kind of being a Christian and fighting as a Christian, is remembering the dynamic that you're supposed to respect as husband and as wife, and that the husband's the leader of the family. And, this isn't going to apply necessarily to all fights. Not all fights are over decisions. But if it is decision-based, the husband as the leader in the family is the ultimate decision maker for the family. The wife is as the submissive entity to the relationship, supposed to honor what the husband decides. On the flip side, the husband is supposed to kind of treat his wife as Jesus, treats the church. Is that correct? And be respectful and cherish her. And so he needs to honor and be concerned about what her needs are and her concerns are. So it should be this symbiotic concern for each other, essentially. And I think part of the problem when a conflict is over a decision is if there's not that respect or not confidence in both people doing their roles as they're supposed to. If the wife doesn't believe that the husband is really going to God on whatever the decision is. I know that someone, after we talked about this before in a previous episode, someone asked, what do you do? And I actually threw this question out in the Questions of Faith series. What do you do as a wife if your husband is not a believer? Like, are you still supposed to be submissive to him? And I was actually surprised. I thought people would say, yes, that's still your job. And there's people who said, no, if the husband is not a believer and therefore not doing God's
Depends on the situation.
So I think that
if they're doing
that's
something
a hard
contrary to God's will, then I would say no.
So, that's not our situation in that, you're not a believer. So it's just, it's having faith in your faith, basically.
Yeah, let me talk about leading from the front with that. So, again, we'll talk about our exact situation. So I was kind of pushing more for the RVing thing. And Lauren was open to it, but not feeling it. I don't know if she was being polite or if it was just kind of like a cool idea, but
I can speak to I love the concept of it. And so that's why I was entertaining the conversations as far as we got into it. It's the two concerns, and we talked about this last Friday, the significant impact on daily life, daily routine, which largely falls into my world as far as kind of running the household. Now the household is an RV, and then the finance piece, but that's a separate. Yep. So it's kind of, I would go about my day and say, how the heck would I do this in an RV?
So I started thinking about, my needs versus Lauren's needs. And, Lauren's needs are more important to me than my needs. And, I am a lot more adaptable than Lauren is. So Lauren is the queen of routine. She is the queen of familiar, and I am ultra adaptable. So I just said, why am I going to force my wife to do something that she's going to be miserable? And when Lauren's miserable, no one's happy. So I'd rather say, hey, I know I can be happy anywhere. So why don't I pick up my cross, carry my cross, and even though I want to do this, I'll do what Lauren wants to do on this point, because I wasn't hearing from God that I had to go do this. It wasn't that, and the main thing out of all that is we shouldn't even been sweating the load on any of this, and we should have just put it in God's hands, and he would have decided it, and we would have had none of that drama, none of that fighting. We wouldn't have worried about all these things, and we would have saved ourselves about $1 million,
Yeah. If there's any lesson learned from it, it's
stress measurement.
Don't get ahead of God in your plans. Don't get ahead of him.
Yeah.
It's like we don't even have the house on the market yet. And I think where we believe that if God wants this house to sell, it's going to sell. And we didn't carry this faith forward in that God will also then open the door on what's next.
Yeah. So that's what it kind of looks like from this. So, just because you're the husband and you're getting to make the calls, are you doing it to serve yourself, or are you doing it to serve your family? Right? So that's the difference. The mission is your family, not, I want to go do this because that makes me happy, and everyone in your family is taking a heat because of that. You have to figure out what is going to be generally the best thing for you to serve the Lord going forward.
Mm-hmm.
So, everything happens for a reason, guys. I mean, I've been talking a lot about that lately, particularly, looking at the figures in the Bible who have gotten their teeth kicked in, even when God loves them, like adores them, thinks they're the greatest, chose them, they still struggle.
Yeah.
It's not like they walk around with this golden shield on them, this glow, and everything happens in their lives, is rainbows and great times. No, awful things happen to all them, and they don't despair, and they don't blame God, and they don't get angry with God.
Yeah.
I was getting angry with God because I'm a Christian. Things are supposed to work out now. I was an atheist for all those years, and that's why it didn't work out. So now that I'm a Christian, it's easy street, right? Not so much.
Wrong.
So anyways.
Yeah. Okay. So the last one that I shared in the video was something, this is one of my, I hate when people do this, and I know it's a very common problem, bringing up old issues in a new argument. And I think, especially in thinking about this from the Christian's perspective and forgiveness, which is like the primary thing that we're supposed to do. If you've forgiven your partner for something in the past, do not bring it up again when you're having a new problem. Yeah. And people, they want to bring in all of the old baggage from when they were wronged by that person before, so that they can
get their way,
be on the higher side of the argument this time, and strengthen their position. And that is so unfair. If you forgave them for it before, leave it alone. Yep. And it's either you did not truly forgive them, and you still need to work through it, which by all means, take this opportunity and say, okay, you know what? I really haven't resolved this. Let's work through it, and then leave it alone. Or you need to understand better what forgiveness means.
Yeah. You need to dive in your Bible and remember the measuring stick that you use is going to be used against you.
Mm-hmm.
So, I find that a lot of Christians want a lot of grace for themselves, and they want to give none.
Mm-hmm.
And, we saw a poor friend of ours who dropped a funny meme on Facebook or Instagram or both about the King James Version. Lauren, you want to describe the meme?
Yeah, I mean, he took it down, so I can't remember exactly what it said, but it was a picture of maybe a scene from a movie, like, of old royals, so it was back in the day, and they were like looking down, all haughty and judgmental. And the writing on the meme said something like the way that people who read the King James Version look at all the other versions of the Bible.
Yeah.
And funny. It was
stuff,
funny,
right
and I guess I saw that, and I didn't read any comments. And then I saw he posted basically an apology, an appeal for forgiveness, and like a retraction of this meme, saying, he thought it was funny, he meant no offense. And this is like the kindest person you ever care to meet. And we'll talk about some of the stuff he's doing in another show. I mean, he's doing great things for God. But he would never, ever intentionally try to like hurt people or rib people. He doesn't have that kind of sense of humor.
And all these Christians were so judgmental and came back and were ripping him a new one. It's like, where is your grace?
Yeah.
Where is your humor?
Yeah. And so he's like, I didn't mean to start a war on my page. People, please forgive me. And all the people were chiming in on that apology saying, we thought it was funny, sorry, people don't have any sense of humor. And I think that's one of the big downfalls of Christians and the
no fun.
appearance of
people,
Christians is, no sense of humor.
A lot of Christians out there are absolutely no fun to be around.
Well, because so much of humor does.
That's what I loved about The Chosen. It shows Jesus laughing
and
joking around with his friends and saying funny things.
Well, I think, and that's humor very often, it's either self-deprecating or it lightly pings on other people or of a culture or whatever, but that's a lot of what makes humor up there's truth in it, but it's framed in a funny way and not in a way that's meant to hurt people. But that's why you see all these comedians being canceled these days, because their humor is also offensive.
Justin Yeber, what if God was one of us? I don't understand that question. No problem. I have no problem, answering that question. Can you elaborate on it?
That's a song.
What's that?
It's a song, and it was a show.
Oh.
What if God was one of us, just a stranger on a bus?
Okay.
I don't know why he's putting that there, but and Shay, thank you for being honest about your struggles with
Shay,
forgiveness.
You don't fully understand forgiveness, so I've talked to people about this, and there's a couple examples in the Bible that I think that are very key. The biggest one is Joseph. His brothers were plotting to kill him. They ended up putting him in a pit, and they're discussing what they're going to do with him, and they end up selling him into slavery into Egypt. And then decades later, after he goes to prison and all these things, he's now running the entire state of Israel, and his brothers have washed up on his doorstep. They don't know he is him, and they're there begging for food and supplies because a big famine has decimated the land. And he tests them, right? He forgives them, but he tests them. Mm-hmm. And this, you got to remember that Joseph did this before the Bible was written, before Jesus was there, before the teachings of Jesus were there, before any of this stuff. So he really got forgiveness down. And the way I explain forgiveness is it's like zeroing out your credit report, right? It's like paying off your balance of debt on your account, right? Now, if, it's not forgotten, right? It's forgiven, right? So if you come and you keep doing the same thing over and over again, you are still required to forgive, but you don't have to trust. There's a difference there, right? Forgiving and trusting is two different things. You have to earn trust back. Forgiveness is free, right? You can forgive them, and then they have to earn your trust. And that's what Joseph did, is he tested them, and they proved they were changed people, that they were good people, and therefore he could trust and love them. And that's the difference. So again, we kind of went over forgiveness. We went over, and then trust, right? Which is kind of a different thing.
You hear stories of, one spouse cheats, whether it's an emotional affair or a physical affair, what have you. And a lot of times that breaks up a marriage. But if the other person can find it in their heart, as we're called to forgive that doesn't automatically, get that person who cheated back on the same level that they were in the relationship before. They have to earn that trust back. But I think having the partner say, I forgive you, and I'm not going to bring this up again. That if you forgive them, you are kind of renouncing your ability to bring that back up and say, remember that time you cheated on me, or remember that time you did this?
Yeah, and if you're watching this program, chances are you're a Christian. What kind of Christian are you? I mean, when you pray for forgiveness and Jesus forgives your sins.
Yeah, it's done and gone.
It's done and gone. You gotta, he's going to know you. He's going to know your list, but you're going to be blameless.
And I think it doesn't mean that it won't cross your mind in the future. I've had things, we haven't had much in our relationship at all, but when I am in a current issue, I've had things from the past come into my mind, but because I have forgiven that, I'm not going to bring it back up. I work through it myself and squash it because I have promised to him that it's not going to come up again. And that if I put that out there, I'd be going back on the forgiveness. It's the devil who puts it back in my mind.
Right.
And so I say, screw you, devil, nice try. It's not going to become a big thing again.
Right. And that's really the key thing. You have a filter on your mouth, and you need to have a filter on your mouth. And when you're fighting and you're in the passion of fighting with your significant other, that filter is extremely important, because that's, you have the temptation, particularly when you're losing, to go nuclear, which is to bring these things from the past forward, and to say things. And, it's better to take a deep breath. It's better to go pray about it, come back and readdress it with calm heads. And do not, like Chase saying, be brutal. If you're brutal,
that's the stuff that then is going to be in your relationship after the conflict itself is gone.
Yeah.
All of those names you call, all of the stuff you drag up from the past, all of the things that you throw back in there, that then is going to be the harder part to resolve than whatever caused it in the first place.
Thanks, Chris. Forgiveness is free. Trust is earned. That's awesome. Thanks, man.
Anything else you want to say about forgiveness?
No,
just kind of making sure that
it's the most freeing thing that you can ever do. When you forgive someone, it's a gift to them and you. You just release that baggage. And I know so many people hold on to resentments for wrongs. I know people who keep lists of wrongs for 40 years, and they're going to die bitter, and they sucked on that poison every day.
And the people that wronged them
they've moved
they're
on
living their happy life.
Yeah.
That's the part. You're really killing yourself with it. But I just find I just whatever happened in the past, do not bring that back up in a new conflict.
Yeah, and then when it comes to language, when you're arguing, pretend, particularly if you have kids around, because it's true, that it's going to live, what you're saying is going to be replayed back on you 1,000 times. So if you're going to call someone a name, or if you're going to say something insulting, just imagine hearing that for the rest of your life, and you're watching your kids see that. I've recommended to people in the past, when record yourself or have your partner record what you say, and then watch it when you're not pissed off, and you're going to be disgusted by yourself.
Yeah. I know one of our good friends, Greg Degnan, he had shared with us before that his parents taught him how to do conflict resolution, because they made sure that whenever they had an issue, they had that conversation or debate in front of the kids. It helped keep them in check, and it was a role model for the kids on how to be respectful in figuring out that problem. A lot of parents will kind of wait for the kids to go to bed, retreat behind closed doors so that they can get uglier because they don't want the kids to see. But having that child there watching, you obviously are a little more aware of what's coming out of your mouth.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's brilliant. It's brave. But I think that what a standard. You've got your kids right there watching how adults should handle the toughest challenges of life.
It's kind of a twofold win. You're more respectful to your partner, and your kid is learning how to do it themselves.
So what's your next thing?
So the last one, this wasn't in my video, but I kind of threw it on there afterwards. Look at what this issue is from your partner's perspective. A lot of fights, you get very inward, you get very selfish and self-righteous in whatever is you're wrong, you were wronged. Look at it from how they are viewing the situation to see, was it a misunderstanding? Why are they having their position in this? Try to appreciate that, because they're bringing all of the stuff that impacts their world into it. And again, conflicts are on such a large scale that this is going to be more relevant for some than others. But with our issue, we needed to look at kind of why is Jason feeling so passionate and so strongly about the RV go up to Maine thing? Why is Lauren feeling so strongly that RVing isn't a good fit for us? And being able to appreciate that and respect that and understand that, I think can help you then feel more warmth and compassion to each other throughout the argument.
Yeah, and it also helps to frame it appropriately, right? So going back and having your partner say, so this is what I'm hearing you say. I'm not saying that this is right, but this is what I'm hearing. And having them clarify that, because oftentimes when we get hung up on something, you're not even saying what I'm hearing.
Yes. Yeah. Yep. That's a good point.
And the other way around. So making sure you're speaking the same languages and that you're truly communicating to one another what is the agreed upon thing that you're disagreeing on.
Right. Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Because that's so often not.
Yeah. A lot of times you're not even fighting about the same thing. Yeah. That's a good point. So that.
Yes, Brandy.
Yeah. Putting yourself in their shoes. Exactly. Because a lot of, they'll bring in their own situations as far as what made them handle that the way that they did. And I think, especially, and this is where you need to really extend grace and forgiveness, but in a situation where someone has cheated, a lot of times that was initiated by a lack of kind of emotional support from a partner in their marriage that left them feeling alone and they seek that elsewhere. And that does not excuse the cheating behavior. They should never do that.
Right.
But when a person, as the wronged party in that situation, as the person who was cheated on, it is hard, but I think very important for them to say, what did I contribute or how did I fail in our marriage that got us here? And I think that's a lot of people don't do that because they feel so wronged that they don't want to also then say, I could do this better and let's try to fix this moving forward.
Yeah, a lot of guys that I know that have fallen out of their marriage, it's not the physical thing that they cheated for. It was feeling alone, underappreciated. Their marriage is degraded. And again, I'm not justifying their behavior. They shouldn't be cheating on their wife, whatever.
Or husband. Yeah.
Or husband,
way.
whatever. They feel betrayed in a million other ways, and they use those betrayals to justify their behavior. Right. So again, it's a dark, twisted thing if you let a balance sheet of wrongs build up in your relationship. That's one thing that I promised when the Lord gifted me Lauren's heart, that I said, I'm going to do this right. We're going to maintain constant communications. Lauren was not a communicator when I met her.
Nope.
And she's become a powerhouse, communication powerhouse. But before that, so now, that line of communication is up, so we don't got a bunch of crap weighing us down.
Yeah. So when the issue at hand's resolved, slate's clear. And that's a nice place to be.
Sorry you have a poor connection, Scott. So anything else you want to talk about tonight?
I mean, that kind of wraps up my thoughts there. And, hopefully that helps some people out there in their marriages. Love to hear as people kind of watch this.
If you guys have any
people have been married longer than us, have had different conflicts than us. So if you had anything else that works, and especially that reflects your values as a Christian, and kind of fighting as a Christian, I think that, again, people put God aside when they hit a rough patch, and that's when we need him all the more. So, let us know what you guys do.